welcome to episode 2. So how are you doing today, Joe?
Doing terrific, Steph. How about yourself?
Wonderful. I thought it would be really good for us to take a moment and let our listeners know really who we are, what we're about, and a little bit of our background so they can get to know us better.
I think that's a great idea. So why don't you start?
Sure. I am a 4th generation realtor,
Yep.
believe it or not, which is really crazy to think about. Just past my 9-year mark in the business officially. I am married. I have an awesome dog named Kevin, and this career for me, when I got into it, I was 21, just graduated from college, and I had no plan B. So when I tell newer agents that, and they're, what do you mean you had no plan B? And for me, just like I said, no plan B. It was, there was success only. I had to succeed in this business, and 9 years later, here we are. What about you?
You know, very easily for me, I was 7 years old when I decided I wanted to go into this crazy business, and I'm that 3rd generation realtor. You know, a lot of people think it was my dad. Well, my dad was very instrumental in that, but he was a commercial industrial guy, and I'm residential, and I really like residential, and that was from a guy that lived next door to me when I was growing up, 7 years old, and you know, I started mowing lawns, throwing newspapers, and working in a gas station. Went to school and started selling houses right after then, and it's what I always wanted to do. And like you, I started when I was 21 years old, and there was no looking back. And just to be clear, yeah, there is some relationship here. Stephanie is also my daughter, which is first and foremost here. And it's really a lot of fun to be able to work with her, put these shows together, and really share our experience on helping the industry become better and continue to evolve, and help us become better and continue to evolve.
So not that you need to share your age or anything, but how long have you been in this business?
42 short years.
42 years.
42.
What would be one of your favorite memories you've had over the last 42 years?
Wow. You know, I think most of my friends have come about as a result of this business, and I think some of the best memories I've had is watching my family succeed, being able to help people buy and buy homes. I mean, just this year I can think of 3 instances where people really achieved dreams. You know, one of them was your cousin, and he was able to buy my mom and dad's home. One of them was a tenant. The other 2 were tenants, and they were able to purchase homes and achieve the American dream, and they've been tenants forever. And I think when you see that, and then to see like the 2 tenants in particular, when I would walk out and say, "Hey, congratulations," and they had tears in their eyes. They were so happy to be able to buy the property and really begin their journey in home ownership, and they just want something to own. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Now, has business changed much over the last 40 years, would you say?
Well, I think people think that it's changed.
Mm-hmm.
They want to say that it's changed. But has it really changed? No. You know, what's old is new again.
Hopefully we won't go back to the MLS books, though.
Yeah, we don't need those. And you know, it's funny though, you talk about the MLS books, and there's not much difference between the MLS books, because we would, you know, you couldn't give your MLS books to anybody, but yet, you know, buyers were wandering all over town with MLS books in their back seat. So there's not much difference between then and now, being able to tune into you know, the various online posts out there, and finding property, and then letting us know they want to see this one, and this one. And the reality is, it's just, I think it's realtors just got to still be that force of where they find their property, and be able to contact the buyer and say, "Hey, you know what, man, I was out on preview today or looking at homes, and happened to run across this great house, and I thought of you. You know, when's a good time for us to go take a look at it," instead of the other way around. So that's what I think.
And I think you've always said it's a belly-to-belly business, and that definitely has not changed. And I think that's more important than ever to remember right now. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I agree with that 100%. I think you got to continue to use the tools that are there for you. I think, you know, there's new tools. There's always new tools, and when the new tools come about, I think you got to embrace those tools, and not every bright shiny object that comes across our desk, because I still think that when you get your real estate license, it seems like there comes just a tidal wave of people who want to separate you from your money and to buy stuff that either your broker already provides for you or is available through the MLS or through California Association of Realtors. You really don't need to do all of that. You just need to stay focused in achieving that. But using tools to promote, first and foremost, your clients and their needs and wants, and then promoting yourself and getting out there in front, but really knocking on doors, making contacts, and having something to offer the client or the prospect.
So I have another question for you. I'm full of questions today.
You are.
Being in the business over 40 years, you've had a successful 42 years with many more to come. What would be a piece of advice that you would have for realtors to be successful over a 40-year time span?
Well, I think you were the one that wrote it on the board downstairs, which is number one, I think you got to show up. Mm-hmm. And, I think you got to be a part of it, and you need to show up. You need to practice your skills. And it's like, we were talking a couple of weeks ago, you and me, we were talking about what's it take, and in fact, our last podcast was what do most professionals have in common? They practice, and realtors, it's ingrained in them. They got a practice test. Take your practice test before you take your state exam. That's the only way you're going to pass your test. So they do all of that, and so their whole career is based on practicing, and then they get into the business, and then they lose their passion to practice. Mm-hmm. I think that's the most important thing we can do on a daily basis, is really stay curious and be curious about our business and the things that are coming along the way, not be judgmental about the business, being curious genuinely, and then what works for you, and then paying attention to those people who are in the business that are doing the volume and style of business that you want to do, and not paying any attention to the others.
Just put your head down and go to work.
Just put your head down and go to work.
Wonderful.
So what about you, Steph? What's you've been in this business for 9 years. You like you said, there was no turning back. You stepped it up. We both stepped it up this year. Not only is Steph my daughter, she's also my business partner. We own Century 21 Discovery, and so we hung that out at Country Mile again this year, and there's no turning back. So what's your biggest memory when it comes to real estate and growing your career, and an impact that says, man, I can't let go of that?
This is something that happened a couple of years ago, but really happened probably 20 years ago. But a few years ago, I don't know if you remember this, you walked in to my office here, and you held up this drawing that was done in crayons, and you said, does this look familiar? I said, no, this doesn't look familiar at all. And it was a drawing that I had done for you at some point or another when I used to come to work with you on Saturdays. And I think that really spurred, even though I didn't decide I truly wanted to get into the business until I was in college, I think that spurred the work ethic. We did spend almost every Saturday here in the office. You still do now. Yeah. But that's a memory for me that always stands out. And then another one is, I remember Thanksgiving year, this was probably 6 or 7 years ago, Thanksgiving morning, and I sold a house that day, and it's like that just resonates with the fact that real estate is a tough business. It's a 24/7 business, and just because it's a holiday or the weekends or anything like that doesn't mean you don't work.
I remember that. We didn't have really good cell coverage, and you were standing out in the middle of the street. Standing out in the middle of the street, and most people would think, well, God, she's out there arguing with her boyfriend, but not the case at all. She's putting together a deal and making things happen and impressing her clients, which brings me to another thought. It's like, you were just talking about Saturdays and Sundays, and I've always considered those to be like money days. Mm-hmm. And I still love going out and looking at open houses, and I think one of the things that the other day I was at an open house, and I think we need to collaborate a little bit better and have a better thought process on who's holding open houses around us. And so often, I was watching this one couple in particular. They came into a house, and our agent was holding the house open, and he said, well, what do you think? And they said, well, it's just too big for us and too much, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, I said, well, I said, there's a perfect house for you. I said, there's a perfect house for you. It's 2 miles down the road. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-story, and it was $549. I said, give us your name, your phone number, and we'll make sure, and that's being held open right now, we'll make sure the other agent is expecting you and there with open arms. And that collaboration, it was like all of a sudden, they perked up, we showed some value, and then that was a learning experience for both the agents to know that, hey, we got to be a little more aware of what's going on around us, and even if it's a competitive brokerage, to really walk into that and say, hey, you know what, I'm Joe Lenz with Century 21 Discovery, I'm holding the house open on X Street, and I know you're over here at Y. If we can send clients back and forth, that would be great. And you hand them your card and you say, we can help out. And I think there's more of that to be done, especially as this market continues to evolve. And just, we need to become more aware. And let's face it, when you're on multiple counters, what's the easiest offer to accept? The one from the person that you feel like don't you agree?
Definitely.
So what else, Stephanie? What's your biggest impact? What's your biggest advice that you can give someone based on who you are, how you've become, and what you know?
I think the biggest piece of advice is very similar to what you said, which is just to show up every day, even if you don't feel like it, to stay positive, have that positive mindset, which we'll get into how to maintain a positive mindset in a future episode. But it's just showing up to work every day and having that true passion for this awesome, crazy business that we're in.
And what if you show up and you've got nothing to do and you don't know what to do? Then what?
You just pick up the phone, start calling your A's, B's, C's, and move down the list and let them know, hey, you're here to help.
And is there any place to go that you can go to talk to someone and say, hey, what do I do today? What do I do?
Well, obviously, you and I are here. So we do have quite a few agents that do stop in and sit down and say, what do I do today? That's how I started.
Right.
I didn't know what to do. I was a 21-year-old. I would sit down and say, what do I do today? But it's just doing something every day and asking the questions, asking tons of questions.
And keeping in mind that your broker or manager is there to, consider your broker and a manager to be a coach.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
They're really your coach. They're supposed to supervise and coach you and assist you with your career and building your career. And so don't be afraid to go in and talk to those folks and listen to what they have to say. I think that's important as well.
Definitely.
Well, anything else you want to say to close up? Or
I don't think so. I think hopefully this gave all of our listeners a better opportunity to get to know us. Next session, we're going to be talking about finding your why and your purpose within this business. So that'll be a great one. But that's it from me.
Well, again, we thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed this particular program, and stay tuned. Charge on.